And so basically we're going to use our meditation, our we're going to do, I guess it's kind of a mantra. It's going to be vowel sounds that I'm going to invite you to repeat and sing with me. And I think they're up there. I can't really see from here, but the words are simply, if you want to call them words, the vowels are E, A, O. And we're going to sing these together, and we're going to chant it on the same note. And it'll go for a little while. We'll probably stop. And what I would like us to do, I think we did this maybe a few weeks ago. I would like us to do some mudras, okay? And I'm going to do my best to hold my hands up like this. But the first time we chant I-A-O, I would like us to put our index finger and our thumb together. On the next one, we just keep working, down the fingers until we get to the pinky. All right? So we'll do that. Once we get to that, I invite us to stop and just experience a little bit of silence. We'll start singing I-A-O again. And then I will give you more directions as we go along. But we're going to put our hand on our heart. We're going to put both hands on our heart. We're going to end up putting our left hand on our heart and our right hand right between our eyes up here. Okay? We'll get to that. But for now, now I invite you to put both hands on your heart as we chant I-A-O 4 more times. I invite you to take a deep breath in and release. Another deep breath in and release. Now we're going to keep our left hand on our heart and put our right hand on our forehead. You can just use a finger if you would like. You can use your whole hand, whatever feels comfortable. And we will chant 4 more times. I-A-O. Now I invite you to put your two hands together in a prayer position. And if you just want to watch what I'm doing here, I just invite you to rub them together just a little bit, like so. Just kind of back and forth. Kind of make a little circle, opposing circles if you're able to do that. And then I invite you to slowly pull them apart and see what you feel as you pull them apart. They're still moving. You're kind of making a little energy ball. And we're going to chant 4 more times. Now I invite you to feel that energy between your hands as we sit in silence for a few moments. Now I invite you to bring your hands together in the prayer position one more time. And now you rest them on your lap in a comfortable position. Let's take another deep breath in and release. A deep breath in and release. We're going to take one more deep breath in, and on the release, we will chant Ia-O 4 more times. Deep breath in. Good morning. So Reverend Evan asked if I wanted to do the talk today, and I was like, I should never really pass up a chance to do that. So I decided to. And then, of course, the first thing everybody wants to know is a title. What's the title going to be? And I thought, what's the most ludicrous title I could come up with that's impossible to explain and understand and can't even be mentioned with words? So I thought, liberation, that'll be great. So yes, and what I thought I would do, I mean, talking about liberation is just a lot of talk, but the only way that you can really, I think anyway, if you believe what people who have experienced liberation say, that words cannot explain it. And it makes me think of the Tao Te Ching, where Lao Tzu says, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. In other words, if we can explain what it is with words, then that's not it. Because the only way that we can do that is to experience it. Which is why I wanted to give us a little slightly different meditation today, so we could actually have an experience without a whole lot of words. I mean, even though I did, have to do explanations for it, but to just give us a little taste of maybe what liberation is like. And then I thought it might be interesting. I think I did this before a couple years ago when I did a talk, because it's so difficult to talk about, right? And words don't really do it justice. I thought I would do a little experiment where I actually speak to you energetically without words for just a few moments to try to send you the energy of what I'm talking about. And then anything I do after that won't matter, so. Because it'll just be blah, 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 blah. You've already got the information, so we're good. So I invite you, whatever feels comfortable for you. I'm just going to kind of scan the room and do my best to send this message, and we'll see what you think of it, whether you get anything or not. It might happen now. It might be something that comes to you later. I don't know, but I'm just going to see what happens. So here we go. There we go. I think it did that. Whatever happens, happens, right? So now, let's talk a little bit about liberation. And liberation makes me think of being free. It's interesting that all of our, everything, I move in harmony with the creative flow of inspiration. That was our daily word that we all said together today, which fits perfectly. Liberation makes me think about being in the flow of life without resistance to what's happening, which can be a challenge, right? Especially now. Like we found out, we're going to have to be wearing masks indoors now again. And there's Delta variants. There's all kinds of things happening in the outer world that may be unsettling. It may be, we may be resisting it. And I thought something that would be interesting to we all know what resistance is, right? But I think if we physically think about resistance, it maybe gets the point across more. So I'm going to put this on I'm going to invite us to put our hands together kind of in the prayer position, but now as if you're going to fight yourself. You're going to take your right hand, your left hand, you're going to press them together as hard as you can, just for a few seconds. And if you notice, if you're really pressing hard, you'll start to shake, and it gets all kind of whatever. And after about 15 seconds of that, we can release it now. You get a little tired, don't you? And so that actually, people do training. They do resistance training where they do stuff like that for like short bits of time to kind of build up strength. But if you were to do that 24 hours a day, you'd be exhausted, right? How many people in the world right now do you think are exhausted from resisting? I could probably raise my hand and I probably resist just as much or more than anybody. And it can be exhausting, right? So here's the thing. With everything going on, and what's going on now in the world is not any different than what's ever been going on in the world, right? A Buddhist teacher named Suzuki Roshi was asked to sum up Buddhism in a couple of phrases. And of course, the person asking the question thought, this is going to be impossible, right? Because there's lots of Buddhist teachings, right? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. There's thousands, okay. 84,000? There's 84,000 teachings, okay. Coming from Anya, who's the practicing Buddhist, 84,000 teachings. He was asked to sum it up in a couple of phrases, and he said, I don't even need a couple phrases, I just need 2 words. And the words were, everything changes. Whew. How does that feel? Does it kind of hit you right in the gut? Oh, everything changes, but I don't want it to change. I want to resist. I want it to be different. I want it to be the same. And how many people in it, maybe nobody in this room, but I know definitely people that I've experienced elsewhere in the world are talking about, I really wish things would go back to the way they were. Right? But that's not resistance or anything, right, with what's happening. And there's a lot of things in the world that are happening that we don't like, that we don't want to have happen, that are tragic, that are horrible, right? But they are happening, and there's nothing, we can't change the fact that they have happened. There's nothing we can do about that. I think the best we can do is probably create something new rather than trying to fight what's already there. But anyway, everything changes. So my question to myself with that is, what do I do with that? Right? Everything changes. Are my beliefs changing constantly? Am I constantly reevaluating everything around me? Am I in meditation trying to figure out every day what's mine to do that might be different than it was yesterday? Because everything changes. And the question is, if everything's changing and we're resisting, does that happen within ourselves? Are we changing and we don't like it? Physically, I have this ache or pain now. I don't want it to be there. I'm going to fight it, or am I going to do something different and just accept and allow what's happening around me, within me? And then whatever's going on inside, right, that eventually shows up on the outside. So if I have that internal conflict, how is that showing up here at Unity of Madison? What am I resisting at Unity of Madison? Something that's happening that I don't like, and I don't want it to be that way, and I don't want to grow or change or evolve anything. It's interesting because a few years ago, I don't know if you remember Reverend Marty Newman, but when she was here, we were doing a little exercise talking about what do we believe as a congregation? What do we want other people to know about us as a congregation? And while we were talking about this, these things, Marty and I kind of had a side conversation going, and she said, what's going on here is what's going on at the time, so this was a few years ago, within the whole unity movement, trying to figure out where should we go, what should we be doing? We're kind of clinging to what Charles and Myrtle Fillmore talked about a long time ago. And she said the interesting thing was they didn't have a whole lot of dogma because they felt that by this time in the history of unity, it would be so far different from the way it was then because it would have evolved way past where they were. And so they were kind of struggling with that too. It's like, how much do you keep of tradition? How much do you totally do something different? So that's, maybe what we're going through now at Unity of Madison, but then how does that translate then whatever struggle that we have internally within our community goes out to Madison? What is Madison dealing with? What is the state dealing with? Is there any kind of conflict within our state at all? And then also take it bigger, take the country. Any conflict within the country, any resistance. And then the whole world, the whole planet, right? So it kind of starts, and basically what the sages always say is that whatever we see in the outside world is a reflection of our inner world. And a lot of times that's unconscious, we don't see it. I know that's true for me. I find it really funny when, somebody comes up to me and says, that so-and-so person is so judgmental. They're this, that, and the other thing. And they go on for a half hour about how judgmental this other person is. And I'm like, wow, that really, I guess I noticed that. But isn't that true? A lot of times what we see is a problem with other people. If we looked in the mirror. But, it takes, I think you have to be really close friends to point that out to somebody, right? It's not something anybody wants to hear, right? Well, you just said that person was so judgmental, but you just ranted on them for a half hour. Maybe that's what you see in them is what's in you, right? So that kind of takes me on the tangent, if you will, about belief. Like, what do we believe? And how loose are our beliefs? Are our beliefs super rigid? If everything changes, how could we hold a belief for very long without having to adjust it, right? And that's something nobody wants to hear. That's hard. That's a challenge. But to me, liberation is actually that, right? It's beyond belief. It's like beliefs don't hold as high a place, because in liberation, we accept everything exactly as it is, and we put our energy into making it better for other people, right? Because once you've experienced liberation, you want to share it, of course, because it's so great. Now, what is liberation? If I could tell you exactly what liberation is, I would, but it wouldn't matter, because the only way that we can know what liberation is by experiencing it. In the same way that if I told you for a half hour what chocolate tastes like, it's just not going to be the same as actually trying it. If you don't try it, you're going to have no idea what I'm talking about. And you may love chocolate to you might be like a hug or heaven. And for somebody else, it might be like, oh, that wasn't as good as I expected, right? And it is true. There are some people in the world who are not super fond of chocolate, believe it or not. It's hard to understand for myself, but. So liberation's the same way. And which is why I wanted to sort of, if you will, transmit whatever that is, because anything that I'm saying now is just not going to do it. It's not going to cut it. It's not going to get you there. It's not going to be what it is. And the other thing is, I think liberation, because we're all different expressions, right, of the one life, the one love, the one everything, that because we're all different expressions, we probably experience liberation slightly different. So the other question, so what I thought we would do at this point, which may be interesting to kind of maybe aid along the path of liberation, is I would like us to try to do a little inquiry, which may be challenging, which may not be fun, or may be great, I don't know, we'll see what you think. But I invite us to kind of get in a comfortable position, feet on the floor, close your eyes if you want, you can keep them open, it doesn't really matter. But I would invite us to ask this question of ourselves: what is real? What is real? Is the chair I'm sitting on real? Are my feet on the floor real? When we did the meditation and we felt the energy between our hands, is that real? Is that more real than the chair I'm sitting on, or less? And then another question would be, who am I? And where is my attention resting? Where do I feel that? Is that in my head somewhere? Is that in my heart somewhere? Is that in my gut somewhere? And when I'm contemplating these questions and feeling the sensations, am I in a different place? And is that place more real than the drama that I'm in every day, or possibly create? And if I can get back to this place quickly and notice my resistance to things before I'm exhausted, is that possibly what liberation is like? Again, it's not anything that can be explained, and I think for everyone it will be different, maybe very different, but at least slightly different. So what did you think of that? Was that crazy or what? Something I ran across, because we're talking about what's real, right? I ran across a cognitive scientist named Donald Hoffman. And he's a scientist in cognitive therapy, and he likes to work with like mathematicians and stuff, and they try to solve problems of science. And one of the things that I guess they can prove now with a mathematical formula is that what we think is real is not. And kind of their, they have a theory about it, and, is this right or not? I mean, do you like this idea or not? I'm not saying it's like anything anyone should believe, right? But it's a new theory that they have out there from scientists that says our reality that we have pretty much is like a video game. And we are all conscious agents in the game, right? And we all have we're all like avatars, if you're familiar with video games. So like there's an avatar, and the avatar is being controlled by the player of the game, right? So what they're saying is these conscious agents are the ones controlling the avatars, and they're not in the game. Just like if you were playing a video game at home, you have a character, and you're moving this character around, and you're doing cool things, and you're finding little Easter eggs, and you're leveling up, and you're doing all that stuff. But you are totally, once the game's over, you're still you, you're still fine, you have nothing to do with the game. The game is just something you're playing in. So I just throw that out there, because how does that make us want to show up in the world knowing that we're in the game? And that wherever the real us is, right, is totally fine, no matter what happens in the game. Does that make it easier to move around in the game with compassion? Does it make it easier to not take everything so seriously? Does it make it easier to not need to be right when other people have different beliefs than we do? And if so, I think that's a little bit of liberation. If we can remember that, I think it helps at least me move through the world a little easier, to know that everything's going to change. Can't do anything about it. But I don't need to worry about it. I can just play the game. And I can show up as authentically as I can. And I can be as loving and compassionate as I can, even in the face of what is maybe a very difficult situation, because I remember, right? It's only a game. And that in reality, we're not all separate, right? And what we see on the outside comes from the inside. And the more we work on ourselves, the more we come to a place of peace. We must see it on the outside. It has to happen, because that's apparently how it works. Or maybe that's just another belief. I don't know. That's why I'm saying anything could be a belief. We don't know. We don't know if it's right. We're safe, but we're safe in the unknown, like the song that we sang. And while I'm talking about safe in the unknown in the song, I just wanted to appreciate Anya and Vicky for joining in special music today. When I think about people who at least act from a place of liberation, I think of those two. Yeah, they are something. So it's really great to make music with them. So, now what? I invite us to close our eyes again and get comfortable in our chair. And I invite us to remember that we're safe in the unknown, that we can experience liberation, even though we can't explain it. And that the more we do that, it's quite possible that we will enjoy the game more. Let's take a deep breath in now and release. Isn't that a relief? Thank you so much. And now I believe we have a board report. Is that true? Yes. Our board president, Steve Roberts, with the board report.